Hey guys, today I'll be talking about a few pool cues that I own. Yes, I love to play pool as well. So I have two different pool cues here. Right now, my current cue is the Predator SP8. It is a Sneaky Pete pool cue, and a Sneaky Pete basically means that it's not trying to be too fancy. They're just trying to blend itself in with a house cue. So if you go to any pool hall, right, the house cues are the ones that all the pool halls, have just hanging on the side. And a Sneaky Pete is designed to look kind of like a house cue, but of course with all the improvements and stuff of a custom cue, or a well-known cue brand, in this case Predator. So yeah, I've been looking at different pool cues. I love watching movies like The Hustler, Color of Money. That's how I kind of got myself back into pool. And yeah, then I started doing some research on different pool cues and stuff like that. So I think Predator is the brand that comes up pretty often because they are the brand that kind of innovated with the low deflection shafts. So previous to Predator, most people just had the regular hard maple shafts. But Predator came out, I think, in the early 90s, and they came out with the low deflection shaft, which means when you hit the cue ball, right, usually when you hit a cue ball, there's going to be some amount of deflection when you put some spin in it. And low deflection is trying to minimize the amount of unwanted squirt that happens with the cue ball. So yeah, Predator came out with that, and the way that they did their shafts is very interesting because in order to minimize the deflection on the cue ball, they have to kind of make the front part of the shaft hollow. So a lot of players who are used to like hard maple shafts are they'll probably be a little bit unfamiliar with the hit of the Predator shaft. So that's why when you look at people online, the people who don't like Predator shafts they're going to complain about how the hit feels a little bit hollow. And it might feel hollow because the front part of the shaft is hollow, right? And they have to do that. They have to make the front end of the shaft as light as possible in order to minimize the deflection. There has to be low mass tip, and a very light shaft that will minimize the amount of deflection on the cue ball. So basically all Predator shafts are extremely, they're like this. They have that technology inside, which is why Predator shafts, some people may complain that it doesn't hit as well as a hard maple shaft. Well, that's the low deflection technology, and pretty much all low deflection cues are going to be, they're going to have a little bit of a different hit than a hard maple cue, right? So that's something to just point out, is just compared to like an old school hard maple cue, yeah, the hit is going to be different with a newer low deflection cue, but low deflection cues are pretty common nowadays. If you want to be a pro pool player, low deflection is, you just try to get as low deflection as possible because people don't want to think about compensating for the deflection. So they go with the lowest deflection shaft possible, which is probably why when you look at all the pro players now, they're mostly using carbon fiber shafts. They're using the Q-Tech Synergy, or they're using the Predator Revos. So these are all carbon fiber shafts, are even more low deflection. But again, just like with the regular low deflection shafts, people complain that carbon fiber shafts hit very differently compared to a regular wood shaft. So, with every kind of cue, you got people who like it, people who don't. People like more traditional kind of cue, people who like a more, more technology, high-tech kind of cue, but it's not going to hit the same. So anyways, all this is to say, I did a lot of research on different brands of cues. I've looked at the Mezz cues, I've looked at Peshawar, OB cues, Sean cues, Jacoby, Joss, McDermott, Q-Tech, Lucasi, all these different cue brands, and I think they all make really nice cues and stuff like that. But Predator is the one that is known for kind of starting the whole low deflection shaft kind of technology. So this is the one I picked up, the Sneaky Pete. It is a Vivid Rangus hard maple with some micarta on the butt here. It's the type of wood. So for shafts, it's interesting because Predator has many popular types of shafts. The Revo shaft, which is the carbon fiber one, is the one used by most pros, but of course those are more expensive. The 314 is probably the most popular shaft, and that's the one I have here, is probably the best one to go just for everyday players. If you want more spin on the ball, if you want to have more accurate, you have to have more accuracy, but if you want to have more control over the spin, then you can upgrade to a Z3 shaft. The Z3 shaft is going to have a smaller tip. The 314 has a 12.75 millimeter tip, I believe. Is a Predator Victory tip is what mine comes with. 12.75 millimeters, which I think is good for most people. But yeah, some people, like my friend, are more advanced, so they want to put more spin on the ball. Then they upgrade to the Z3 shaft, which is, I think, has like a 11.75 millimeter tip, which is like a very narrow tip. It gives them more control over the cue ball and the spin, but it also means you have to be more accurate. Because if you're not accurate, then the Z3 shaft, I think, could be pretty hard to. It's for advanced players, basically. For me, I wouldn't say I'm an advanced player or anything, so I just go with the 314 shaft. And there's also the Vantage shaft for people who like to have the feel of a traditional hard maple shaft. But anyways, I have the 314. This is probably the most popular shaft. So yeah, this is the Predator Sneaky Pete. Cost about $500, $600. And this is the pool cue I've been using mostly for the past year, I would say. And then looking at all the other brands I mentioned, there is one brand that I see online that gets almost, I wouldn't say universal acclaim, but very, very few people talk ill about it, and that's Mezz. So Mezz is interesting. Mezz is a Japanese brand. They're made in Japan. And what I see online is, you know, for all these other cue brands, like even OB or Sean, or like some of the more top cue brands I see on the market, even Predator, right? You see people that have small things they dislike about it. But for Mezz, it's interesting because very, very few people seem to dislike Mezz. Everyone seems to talk about the build quality of Mezz cues. I mean, they are expensive, but everyone talks about the build quality of Mezz cues, and no one really seems to have anything really bad to say about Mezz, which is interesting because for every other cue brand that I mentioned, everyone has had at least something, you know, like most people of course will have positive things to say about it, but there's going to be people that don't like about it. Very few people seem to dislike Mezz. So yeah, Mezz is made in Japan. It's the only, as far as I know, the only major cue maker to be made in Japan. All the others I mentioned are American. So yeah, even Balabushka, which I think Balabushka, some modern, I think, American brands have taken the Balabushka name. So they make Balabushka cues, but they're not the same, obviously, as the original Balabushka cues. But yeah, anyways, I'd say like any of these modern ones would be probably better than the Balabushka. But yeah, I picked up this Mezz CP21. This is the name of this model here, and it's a pretty new model. So for Predators, they used unilock joints, which I think are probably more or less interchangeable with a lot of other shafts. But for Mezz, they kind of go with their own joints. So this new CP21 cue model, it seems to be using their new wavy chew joint, which is a Mezz only joint. So that's the thing about Mezz is they're expensive. They use their own joints, but I can tell that it's very high quality already. Both of these have Irish linen wraps, by the way. It's the Irish linen wrap. This is the Irish linen wrap. I mean, that's a preference thing. Some people like the feeling of a wrap. Some people just like the feeling of wood. I don't mind having a wrap. And yeah, this is the only one. I think the only major cue maker that's made in Japan or outside of America that I know of. But yeah, it feels very solid. This one has Bakote. Bakote is a very nice, finely figured wood. You can see the Bakote on the butt right here. And the shaft is interesting too. This is, I would say I think it's similar to the 314, but I have to test it out more. This is their new shaft. It's called WX Sigma. So this is their WX Sigma shaft with a wavy chew joint, 12.5 millimeter tip here, which is using a Kamui soft tip. Yeah, I'll have to test this out more. It looks similar to the 314, but you know, obviously I have to do more research and testing on it. So I'll be hitting, you know, I'll be using this cue more and more. I just got this, but it's interesting. The WX Sigma just came out, I think, last year or a year ago, so it's fairly new, fairly recent. I haven't been able to see many reviews online about it. Most people with Mezz cues, they seem to talk about the WX700 and the WX900, maybe even the Ignite. The Ignite is their carbon fiber shaft, but I haven't seen anyone really talk about the wavy. I mean the wavy 2 joint is pretty new too, but the WX Sigma shaft. This is quite a new shaft. So yeah, I'm interested to test this one out. This is also supposedly very low deflection. Now I don't know how exactly compares to the Predator, because Predator for a long time held a patent on how they constructed the hollow, end of their shafts. Other makers haven't been really able to do that, maybe until recently. So yeah, I'm not sure about the WX Sigma. I'll have to test it out. From first glance, it seems fairly similar in terms of the specs to the 314. It's just the tip is slightly smaller on the WX Sigma, but otherwise fairly similar dimensions, and both claim to be very low deflection, although not as low deflection as the carbon fiber shaft, but still low deflection, so I'll have to test it out. But yeah, it's interesting. I also wonder how it compares to the older WX700 that a lot of people seem to rave about. People do see, like when I look online and I look at the Mezz versus Predator cues, I think for the WX700 people have said that, oh, it's a more solid hit compared to the Predator, and maybe that's just people thinking, oh, this Predator seems like it hits very hollow because that's a hollow, end of the shaft. Maybe Predator has just gotten that reputation. People just, when they talk about the WX700 shaft, they say, oh, it hits a little bit better, more solid, feels more like a traditional maple shaft. Well, I'll have to see. And this is WX Sigma, which is supposedly the successor to the WX700. So this is a new shaft that's supposed to replace the WX700, so we'll see. It doesn't replace the WX900 though. The WX900 I think is more equivalent to the Z3 shaft on the Predator. So we'll just have to test it out. So anyways guys, that's it. A little bit of a precursor or a ramble to me testing out these cues. But yes, the Mezz cue is also very similar in price, by the way. I know in general Mezz tends to be expensive, but Predator is also pretty expensive too. So both of these cues I got for around 500, 600 bucks each. So they're not too different from each other in terms of price. So yeah, that's the Predator SP8 Sneaky Pete and the Mezz CP21, which is a very new cue. So I'm going to test both of these out and see which one I like better in terms of the hit, the feel, the control. Yeah, I'm just going to go to a pool table and try it out. So stay tuned.
Mình sẽ đánh một cái vòng gỗ. Chính xác là sao mà đánh. Em đặt những cái hút này, hút cặp đây như thế này. Hoặc người ta đọc cho thẳng. Đánh nhạc chính xác rồi. Nhạc chính xác. Kia trúng miền đàn này phải nhờ sự trợ giúp. Nhưng mà mình có ăn cái người một cái thật lắm. Trẻ đó thì nhìn sau đó thì cũng khả năng vô cao mà. Thôi, thôi chú quá. Cái đó qua chứ. Họ đi về xem YouTube rồi. Hang it where you want. I'm not going to connect that music stuff. vô lòng người hâm mộ. Vâng luôn.
Alright guys, so after playing many racks with these two cues, I think I have an idea of which one I prefer. So one thing is I have to make a correction. I said that the Predator 314 shaft had a 12.75 millimeter tip. That is not true. It actually has a 12.9 millimeter tip, and that's compared to the 12.5 millimeter tip on my WX Sigma for my Mezz cue. So actually the difference is a little bit more than I expected. It's actually 0.4 millimeters. So yeah, the Mezz WX Sigma 12.5 millimeter tip, and the Predator 314 12.9 millimeter tip. I think in practice most people won't notice too much of a difference, but if you shoot with these two enough, I think could be a slight difference here. I think Predator, generally speaking, is going to have better performance for the low deflection, and the reason for that is because Predator was the company that originally invented low deflection shafts. Therefore, they have a patent on how to make these low deflection shafts. So that's another reason why many people say that Predators have a very hollow hit. It's because the inside of this shaft really is just hollow, and that makes it very, very light, and anything low mass is going to be lower deflection. Whereas every other Q company that has low deflection shafts cannot use a hollow end of the shaft anymore, because that's patented by Predator. So Predator was a company to introduce low deflection shafts, so they patented it. So they have more technology inside. They have the original technology for low deflection shafts. All other Q companies, including Mezz, they can't use the same kind of technology as Predator, so they have to do something that's not going to be quite as lightweight, but they try. So I think many companies put foam or some kind of foam material in the shaft to make it as light as possible without it being hollow, because if it's hollow, then that's Predator's technology, right? So yeah, so that's why I think Predator is always going to be the better, like the most performant for low deflection shafts. But at the same time, a lot of people don't like how it hits. So another thing about the construction of Predator shafts is that they use the spliced maple construction. So they take different pieces of composite wood and they splice it together. That's also something a little bit different than how other Q companies do it. Other Q companies like Mezz and all the other brands I named, they mostly use like one piece of solid maple, or they use two pieces maybe at most, but they don't use a spliced maple construction like the way Predator does. So that's what kind of makes Predator stand out. Now, after hitting with both of these Qs, I actually think I prefer the Mezz more, and the reason is because yes, the Predator is going to be lower deflection. It is more performant, but it's not too big of a difference. Like the WX Sigma is still very close in terms of performance. I think in terms of deflection, the WX Sigma is still going to be very low deflection. It's just not as much as the Predator. Predator has a touch more performance, but that's because they have that proprietary technology. And if you want even lower deflection, then you would go to the Z3 shaft for Predator, and then you would go to the WX900 for the Mezz. But for me, you know, I'm not at that advanced level yet where I would need that. So for me, I can't really tell too big of a difference between these two shafts in terms of the deflection. However, there is a big difference in the way they hit. So yeah, many people have said that Predator has a very hollow hit, and I have felt this way as well. I mean, when I used the Predator shaft, since it was the only Q I had, like Predator was the only Q I had previously, I didn't notice this too much, but after switching to the Mezz Q, man, when I hit with the Mezz, it just feels like you're hitting with a traditional like maple shaft, like a full wood shaft, compared to the lower deflection Predator stuff. So yeah, I think I prefer hitting with the Mezz. I mean, to me, the Mezz looks higher quality. It feels higher quality. I like the hit more. Feels much more solid. And when I hit the cue ball, it just, yeah, people talk about the hit, right? And some people might say, well, you know, the hit doesn't matter in terms of, you know, the actual performance of the ball and stuff like that. You know, it doesn't matter in terms of that, but in terms of how you feel about it, it matters, right? And I feel like when I hit the ball with the Mezz shaft and the Mezz Q, it just feels better. And if it feels better, it gives me more confidence when I'm hitting the ball. So that's the thing I noticed about the Mezz. When I hit with the Predator, now I understand why people say it has a hollow hit. It just feels like, it doesn't feel like you're hitting with anything solid. You know, it feels like a, I don't want to say anything bad about Predator because, you know, they're highly performant, but it feels like you're hitting with a toy compared to the Mezz. The Mezz feels like you're hitting with real wood. So yeah, I mean, Predator of course has, you know, they have the best performing technology in terms of low deflection, but the one I actually enjoy using more is the Mezz. It is just, in the construction too, I mean, Predator is not known to give you good value in terms of the construction and the quality. Like, if you buy Predator, you're buying it for the technology, the low deflection technology. Nobody's going to say, oh, Predator makes like the best quality cues. They make the best performing cues, so they don't make the best quality cues. Mezz, on the other hand, all you see about like people talking about Mezz, they make really good high quality cues. Probably the best production cues on the market. That's not a custom cue, right? And Mezz even has even higher exceed cues, but anyways, those are more like custom cue quality. So yeah, I mean, just after feeling these two, yeah, the Mezz feels much higher quality, gives me a much more solid hit, just feels better in the hand, gives me more confidence when I hit. The Predator, better performant, but to me it doesn't matter too much because both of these are really, they're low deflection shafts. So the Predator might be a little bit better, but for me, I'm not going to feel that too much anyways. I need more practice. So so yeah, I think in terms of these two shafts, just in comparison, the way I play it, yep, the Predator is nice and definitely has better technology, but I would take the Mezz cue to hit with any day because it just feels much better to hit with. So I just like using it more, gives me more confidence on my shot. So yeah, that's it. Out of these two cues, I prefer the Mezz. Yeah, it's very just solidly built, and for the same price, yeah, solidly built, and just feels like a higher quality cue for the same price. Even though the Predator has better tech, but for me, I'm not a professional I'm not a pro pool player, so I don't really get too much benefit out of that anyways. So yeah, that's my 2 cents after using these two cues. I definitely prefer the Mezz. Thanks for watching.
I'll grab you a free beer. Wide open.